what were the fight scenes like? So there was a lot, especially in Lionheart. There was a lot of like certain fight scenes in the pool. Then you're down in the car with the
Right,
Scott
right.
guy. What did you work with the? You worked with a stunt choreographer on that, obviously.
Oh, we had fight
Um,
choreographers. We had look, Jean-Claude himself is a very good fight choreographer. So we had Michelle Kesey,
okay.
um, who's in Lionheart, and actually who played Tong Po in Kickboxer.
Yeah,
And he's an old friend of Jean-Claude's from Belgium. Um, so, and then we had Frank Dukes, who was a friend of mine, who I kind of based Bloodsport on these stories that he would tell about the Kumite. So we had
yeah.
Frank. And Frank knew a lot of stuff about martial arts. Also, he's not much of a real fighter, but he knew a lot about martial arts and about fighting. So we had Frank and Michelle and Jean Claude were coming up with the fight choreography for Lionheart. Um,
Interesting.
and then, yeah, in Double Impact, we used some local guys in Hong Kong, but it was mostly Jean Claude. Like in Double Impact, most of the choreography was coming right from Jean Claude, who's quite a good fight choreographer back in the day.
Would he like put a fight together on set, or was he working these out with you prior?
Well, we would work things out prior to a certain extent. Um,
Okay.
and uh, like on Lionheart, we had Frank Dukes and Michelle Kesey would work out a fight. Then we'd show it to Jean Claude. And this is how it generally went with Jean Claude. They'd show it to Jean Claude, and then he'd say, "Okay, I don't want to do this one, but let's do this, and let's make it a bit different. Let's use this move. Let's use this kick." So he would make a lot of adjustments on the fights,
Okay.
and it generally worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
Mm.
All those movies, in my opinion, had such great fight scenes. Such great fight scenes, such a dynamic range of different characters within the
Right,
fights
right.
too, which was cool.
The characters, that was basically. Um, I'll tell you how we found the fighters for Lionheart. We put out an open casting call for fighters,
Okay.
and we used Frank Dukes' dojo. He had this big dojo in North Hollywood at the time, and they all came in. We'd take them one at a time, and Michelle and Frank would put them through the paces, and we'd see who could do a good movie fight and who couldn't. So we
Mhm.
narrowed that down, and then I narrowed it down further because I wanted all the fighters to look different from one another. So if two guys were both good at doing a movie fight, but they looked too similar to one another, I would choose one and not the other.
Gotcha.
So that's how we found most of those fighters. Although a few of them came in from their friends of Jean Claude's and friends of Frank Dukes, also like Jeff Langton, the guy who gets punched in the nuts in that underground parking garage.
Yeah.
He was
Yeah.
an old friend of Frank's, so Frank is the one who brought him in,
Okay.
and I liked him, and he did a great scene. The guy who does the final fight, that was Abdel Kesey, Michelle Kesey's brother, and he had
Okay.
also known Jean Claude since their days when they were training in martial arts back in Belgium. So we brought him over from Belgium, and then Jean Claude used him again. We used Abdel in The Order, and Jean Claude used Abdel in The Quest. So this is somebody that Jean Claude knew from way back when. Um, and we found a few new people too, like Billy Blanks. I don't think
Yeah. Yeah.
he's never been in a movie before. And we
Yeah.
found him when we were auditioning these fighters, and put him in the film. And people have wished that I had done more with Billy Blanks because we really just gave him this one fight in the Foreign Legion camp at the beginning. But
Yeah.
he went on to become uh, quite a big personality in his own right.
Interesting.
And
Yeah, how
there's
that
a few,
works.
huh? Yeah.
Did he have any like prior um inkling of being in the movies like that, or was it just something that kind of came up for Billy Blanks?
Um, I don't know if he had any prior inkling. Actually, it's surprising. so many of these people who train in martial arts, who
Mhm.
are fighters, um, they all harbor a dream to be in a movie one day and to
Yeah.
be a movie star like Jean-Claude or Stallone. He might have had that idea in the back of his mind, but we didn't ask anybody about that. Basically, they came in, okay, let's see you do your stuff. Generally, Michelle Kesey, who's a very good boxer, would get in with them, and he would put them through their moves, and we'd be observing them and writing notes, and eventually we came up with our core group that we had in Lionheart. And I've done that with other movies too, where we go out and we look for some new people.